Here's a picture for you. In the old westerns, when a mysterious stranger rides into town and faces down the bad guys, we know we're usually in for a happy ending. However, in real life, a mysterious stranger can fill us with suspicion. But when Dick Lebsock was in danger of drowning, a stranger went from being mysterious to being something quite miraculous. For more than 20 years, Dick Lebsock of Visalia, California, has had a love affair with scale model replicas.
I'm a builder. I like to take a pile of nothing and end up with something. It takes time and patience.
Today, Dick focuses his hobby on cars and airplanes, but there was a time when boats were his favorite pastime. His prized possession, a nearly perfect hydroplane, his wife Ellen remembers.
It was a very special boat. It takes maybe as many as 100 hours. By the time it's all painted, sanded, the radio control stuff is mounted in it.
But it would be the last boat her husband ever built. For 20 years ago, on his maiden voyage, something terrifying happened. Terrifying and miraculous. It began on a cold afternoon in October 1979. Dick and his wife were meeting a friend to test the hydroplane on a pond not far from their home.
We were really excited about this. We had run the engine. We knew that that was going to work. We knew that the electronics were going to be all right, but we never really knew what it would do on the water.
The pond was perfect for racing their boats. No wake, calm water. But from the beginning, something was wrong.
It was a little reluctant to take off at first and set it on the water. It would immediately die. Perhaps that was an idea that we should have paid more attention to at the time, but we were so excited that we just kept right on going.
Dick overlooked the brief mechanical problem, and the two men began racing their boats.
It was going across the lake from us, looked like it was not a miniature toy. It looked like you were a long ways away from a real hydroplane.
And you're not keeping up, you're not keeping up. Woo!
After the two men had cruised their boats around the pond for a while, Dick's friend brought his ashore so that Dick could have the water to himself.
I could hardly wait to open it up and see what it would actually do.
He got the hydroplane in position for the longest run across the pond, pulled the throttle, gave it the power, and
it just died. This is not something that is good.
What's going on?
The question now was how to retrieve it from its position in the water.
I decided that rather than to leave it out there, I would go get it. I didn't know how deep was deep in this pond. I figured that I could get to the boat, pull it back in, walk back out the same way that I came in. So I started in to the water, and it just kept getting deeper and deeper.
I'm watching, he's walking, suddenly he's gone. He just stepped off into this channel and went in over his head, just that quick.
I fought my way back up to the surface and took one more shot at where the boat was at.
But a combination of the deep water and the heavy clothing he was wearing was dragging him down.
By that time, I realized he was in real trouble.
And it was kind of, why aren't they coming to get me? Don't they realize that something's wrong here?
But neither Ellen nor their friend knew how to swim.
And we were standing there watching him drown. There's really no way to describe how helpless and terrifying it is to stand there and watch somebody that you love dearly in that kind of danger.
Dick continued to fight his way to the surface, but he couldn't seem to get another full breath.
I guess I resigned myself at that moment. There wasn't anything I could do. I didn't have the power, I didn't have the strength to overcome the weight of my clothes, the coldness of the water.
And so he began to slowly sink to his death.
It was terrifying. I don't remember anything except extreme panic because I knew he was drowning and going, oh, please.
As if on cue, help arrived.
I looked up and there was this young man in cut-off Levi's, and he jumped into the water and he swam to where Dick was struggling in the water.
All I know is that all of a sudden, instead of going down, I was now going up. Instead of being face first in the water, I was forcibly flipped over onto my back, and I was being towed to shore.
He grabbed him lifeguard style and swam, must have been a block, over to where we were.
Honey? Honey, are you all right?
Someplace in there, it occurred to me that this young man who had saved him didn't have on anything except a pair of cut-off Levi's, and it was cold.
While Ellen ran to fetch a blanket, Dick's friend helped him to his feet. But when Ellen returned, the young man was nowhere to be seen.
We looked around, and he was gone. There wasn't anybody anywhere. It was just that quick. There was nothing. There were the three of us.
Who was this young man? Where had he come from? And where had he gone? Dick and Ellen are certain that he was an angel, sent down to save Dick's life.
I was going down one more time. I had no hope of getting to shore. For him to all of a sudden be there, hit the water, drag me out. You can't be touched like that and write it off as mere coincidence.
And there's one more reason why they believe that the boy who saved Dick's life that day may not have been from this earth.
It's so strange.
It's gone.
And we probably wouldn't have thought anything about it, except that when we got ready to go home, Dick's boat was laying on the ground at his feet.
When I looked down and saw that boat, it was as much of a surprise as me even being there, much less being brought out of the water by somebody that wasn't there.
Why would any human being bother with the boat in the same instant that they were saving a life?
This kid did. This angel did. Because that's the only thing it could have been. And nobody can convince me otherwise.
You're about to meet a very courageous little girl. Born with a devastating genetic disease, Elizabeth Lulu would surprise everyone with a little help from a mysterious stranger. Elizabeth Lulu was born a happy and healthy baby in Lancaster, California, but her mother, Jennifer Petty, soon knew that something was wrong.
She got sick at about 5.5, 6 months. She started getting, she'd have like this wheezing, and I thought, oh, maybe she has like asthma or allergies or something. Couldn't quite put a finger on what it was. Then she started coughing a lot and mucus was coming up. So I took her to the pediatrician, and that pediatrician recommended we go have her tested. We discovered she did have cystic fibrosis. It is life-threatening.
At 4 years old, Liz's health was rapidly declining and she was admitted to the hospital. Liz's grandmother, Susan Moses, spent day and night with her.
They had tented her bed with an oxygen tent and given her an oxygen mask within this tented bed so that she could get higher concentrations of oxygen. She was 4.5 and she weighed around 21 pounds. She was very frail. And I was under the tent with her and we were spending a moment together, and she looked up at me, grabbed my hand, and she said, "Oh, don't worry, Graham. I will be 5. She just had this look of such strong conviction in her eyes.
Unfortunately, Liz's lungs had deteriorated significantly. Jennifer was faced with the first of a series of difficult decisions.
The doctors came to me and said, we have a choice, and your choice is you can allow her to stay in the state that she's in, or you have a choice to try to make her comfortable and help her breathe better on a ventilator machine.
Dr. Aninda Das, one of Liz's medical team at the hospital, weighed in on this crucial decision.
Cystic fibrosis patients have compromised lungs. When you put them on mechanical ventilation, it is highly likely that they may become ventilator dependent for the rest of their lives.
You don't ever want to see your child suffer in any way, which is the main reason why I really made the decision to put her on the breathing machine.
Liz and her family remained strong. Prayer became their outlet for hope.
My prayers were to really ask God to give me the strength to accept whatever His will was for Liz. And in accepting that, to also give me the strength to be able to be strong enough for my daughter, Liz's mother.
To avoid a growing dependency on artificial lungs, doctors removed Liz from the ventilator within a week.
When the doctors removed the breathing machine to prepare her to go home, her breathing returned back to exactly where it was before she started. She was struggling for every breath at that point. She withered away to just pure bones. I mean, it was just flesh on top of bones. It was really hard to see.
Her prognosis looked grim, and the odds of a favorable outcome were very low.
Then Liz received a startling and miraculous vision.
Lizzie was lying on the bed and her little hands were reaching up towards the ceiling of the room, and she said, "Graham, I don't want to go there." And I said, "Where, Liz?" And she pointed up and she said, there with the white birds. Don't you see them?" So I actually got into bed with Liz and put my arms around her, and I said, "Well, Liz, we're just going to stay right here." There was a much greater power that was involved in Elizabeth's future, and it wasn't in the doctor's hands. It was truly in God's hands in that moment.
Her condition had gotten to a point where there was not much more that they could do, and that we had a choice to either keep her there or send her home on hospice.
Liz was sent home with every possible medical support piece of equipment that one could imagine being shipped into a home.
At home, friends and family planned a special homecoming for Liz.
When Elizabeth arrived home, the house had been transformed into pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns and candies.
No, because it's going to roll out.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
She just had a great time, and people would just flow into the room throughout the day and, you know, pray and sit and talk to her and bring her little gifts and just be so thankful that she was just able to make it to that point.
It was during this party that a mysterious stranger stopped by with an urgent need to pray.
There was a man who showed up at the door who said his name was Chad. We didn't know anything else about him. I'd never seen him before. He said he'd heard about Liz and he'd been praying for her for several months, and that he wanted nothing more than to be able to go into her room and pray, if that would be okay.
So we invited him into the room, and he stood before Liz, and he prayed that God would not only make her well enough that she would recover, but that he would actually heal her lungs so significantly that it would shock and surprise her doctors.
He prayed with so much energy and conviction. The energy in the room, it was incredible. I do believe on some level that he was some sort of an angel.
I don't really know who he was, and I've never seen him again.
The emotional complaints. Elizabeth Lulu was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis. The disease severely damaged Liz's lungs, and at 4 years old, doctors did as much as they could and ultimately sent her home to the care of her family. During her Halloween homecoming party, a mystery visitor prayed that Liz's lungs heal so well that her doctors be shocked and surprised.
There were incentives that we set, and goals just as simple as going out in the yard and planting seeds in the garden.
I told Liz that the day that she could walk from her room into the backyard, we'll take a trip from California all the way to Florida. So that became a goal for her.
Liz became determined to have her grandmother make good on her promise.
She slowly started to show progress, little by little daily things that you could notice about her strength.
And the day that she could walk to the backyard, we rented an RV and piled into the RV and headed off to Florida. Not as easily as you might think, because she was still on oxygen, she was still on intravenous feedings and intravenous antibiotics. So we basically had to rig the interior of the RV with all this medical equipment.
When we finally reached Florida, one of the things Liz wanted to do was go to the beach and be able to walk on the beach. And I was a little worried because at that point she hadn't been able to walk, really. We'd been using the stroller or wheelchair to get her around. I don't know if it was the beach or the air or what, but inside of her she just came alive and was able to stand up and walk at that point.
Liz's accomplishment was a testament to her inner strength and will to heal.
I was really surprised and I was really proud because I thought, wow, I'm doing it, I'm standing.
Her recovery during this time period was amazing to watch.
I'm going to a Christmas shop and we're going to see Dallas.
A lot of people spend time feeling sorry for themselves, and you know what? She never did. She never felt sorry for herself. She never, ever got down or felt like, why me?
And I might buy shoes.
Shortly after her cross-country adventure, Liz met with doctors to determine if she was now a candidate for a lung transplant.
She went back to the hospital to the same cystic fibrosis clinic that she had visited when she had been sent home so gravely ill. When the doctor looked at the medical records, he said to the nurse, no, I need to see Liz Lulu's records. And the nurse said, those are Liz's.
When I saw Liz with her grandmother in the hallway, the difference was indeed night and day. The dramatic improvement that Liz demonstrated could not be explained by our current medical knowledge.
Liz did not qualify for a transplant because, miraculously, her lungs were too healthy. The stranger's message to Liz proved true.
And it was on that day that that prayer really had significance for us, because we understood that that prayer had been answered. Not only had she recovered, but her lungs had healed so significantly that it did cause her doctors to take a pause.
I think the reason my lungs got stronger were because people would pray for me and just setting goals for myself, like, you have to get better, and I did, and just people helping me through it is, good too.
Although Liz will fight her cystic fibrosis for the rest of her life, she is now a lively, vibrant 10-year-old ready to take on the world.
Liz appreciates life more than anyone I've ever met. She savors it. She understands it. She loves life. I would have to attribute her progress to God.
When I was 4, I couldn't even lift my head. And then when I was 5 and I got older, I just run outside and get ice cream. And that was pretty, spectacular that I actually changed in 1 year. And I think that was a miracle because my lungs are so strong and my doctors are happy with it.
Every little thing is a cherishing thing for me in terms of the kisses, the hugs, every little thing in life is cherished, and I really think that that's a lesson that she's taught me.
Liz's experience was absolutely miraculous. There's just no question about it.